All right, my friends, today we are going to finally get into part 2 of teaching a pivot into heel position. I'm going to speed run through the first part of this because I've posted multiple videos in the past teaching your dog to put their paws on a thing. Please know that is a very necessary prerequisite to doing this behavior, is having a dog that can voluntarily put their paws on an object without you really having to do a lot of work to get them up there, get them to stay there. You want their feet to be pretty sticky on whatever object you're going to be using. I've posted multiple videos about this that I will link below. Sorry, future me. And I recently posted like a really quick version of like the first few steps of teaching a pivot into heel position. Now, for context and just for like clarity's sake, I have done probably since that video like maybe 4 or 5 very quick, like 2 to 3 minute sessions with Melody working on this skill. So she is probably a little bit farther along than a lot of dogs might be starting this skill. Please do not progress to the next step in each kind of sequence until your dog has a really strong grasp on the step before. So for example, if you still have to like lure your dog with a cookie to put their feet on an object, or if they're not very consistent about keeping their feet on the object, work on getting a really strong foot target to an object before you worry about the dog keeping their front feet on it while they spin around it with their back feet. That's really hard. So we're going to pick up where we left off last time, as if we have a dog that can put their front feet on an object in front of us, and we've started doing a little bit of luring. For reference, what I'm looking for, ooh, find it, sorry, butterfingers. You know what, I am gonna ditch the clicker. Lie down, please. Thank you so much. I am gonna ditch the clicker. See, okay, so when I say a sticky foot target, see how I walked away from her and she stayed up here? That's what I mean. Good. I want this. I want my dog to be glued to the target before I move on. Find it. So what I'm looking for is like a prerequisite for starting to teach a pivot is a dog that will, good, do that. And that I can, you can see, I've been working on this, good, kind of lure around the disc a little bit. If I didn't talk about this in the first video, which I'm not gonna rewatch it, let's be honest, use something circular preferably and something that is not very tall. This is actually like a little bit big for Melody. This is Chester's old pivot disc. Find it. But it's what I have. Good. So that's what I'm using. But you want to use something that your dog can basically just have their front feet on. You don't want the target to be so big that they think about like sitting on it or getting all 4 feet on it, just their front feet. So find it. I'm looking, before I worry about pivoting, I'm looking for a dog that, good, will get their feet, good girl, on the object. Find it. And when I reset them by telling them find it and throwing a cookie, they come running back, good, and they put their feet right back up there. Good. So how I started to get this little, good, bit of pivoting that Melody is showing you, find it, is just by being kind of strategic with where and how I was rewarding, good, and luring. So, good. You're being quick today, my love. Find it. I'm going to do my first mark and reward when my dog puts their feet on the disc. Good. And then I'm going to put a cookie on their nose, and I'm going to keep their head kind of low and get them to spin their body around, good, like that. Now, obviously you're not going to walk around the disc, find it, with your dog. That was just for me to show you what I'm talking about. But you can see, good, if you don't have, nice job, find it, a really sticky front foot target, they're going to be likely to not keep their, ooh, find it, dropped a shred. They're going to be likely, good, not to keep their feet on the disc while you kind of spin them around. Obviously, like I said, I've been working on this with her. So, good. She has, like, she's starting to, find it, pivot kind of independently. Good. And that's basically how I get the independent pivot. It's really not that fancy. It's just like, I literally just repeating this process and just find it starting to fade out the lure and helping her quite so much. Melody gets easily frustrated. She loses motivation very quickly. You wouldn't tell it by this. She's like being quite excited about it. Good. So I have to I make her first few reps, find it almost impossible for her to get wrong. And that's kind of a good strategy to have just like generally. So all I'm doing, good, is rewarding, super, good, her initial choice to put her feet on the disc, and then helping her to pivot all the way around. And the first few times I do this, I jackpot the dog being in this position. Find it. Because I want them to remember that being there is a very good thing to do. All I'm going to start doing to start getting some independence out of her is good. Marking after she's offered a tiny bit of pivoting. And I did nothing fancy to get that behavior. Find it. Literally all I did was reward her for putting her feet on the disc and then flip my hand around, spin her nose out, and mark and reward every single little instance of pivoting she gave me until she got all the way around. I don't do a really big jackpot until I feel my dog touch my back leg. That's where they get lots and lots and lots of goodies. Toss them and reset and do it again. Mark and reward for feet being on the disc. Switch your hand around to in front of them. Turn their head out. And every little tiny instance of pivoting they give you, good, I mark and I reward. Good. And then they don't get a really big jackpot. Good, until I feel their body kind of hit the side of my leg. Find it. Find it to reset, and that is it. What you're going to start to see is exactly what Melody is starting to do. Good. She's starting to offer a little bit of pivoting on her own. So for her, find it, what I'm starting to do is mark and reward, or I'm waiting to mark until she gives me a little bit of independent pivoting. And then I'm not giving her her reward until I help her get all the way around. And then she's getting, good, several cookies. Yeah, super. For getting right where I want her. Good girl. Yeah, for you. Find it. So, to keep this going and continue to get some independence, what I'm going to start doing is getting the food out of my hand. So I'm still going to help her with a hand signal. I'm just not going to have food in that hand. And I'm going to maybe wait a little bit and see if she offers me more independent pivoting before I have to help her. Good. And then I'm still going to get her all the way around in the final position before, all done, before I reward her all the way. So I've noticed using the chicken jerky treats, we're not as excited about it as we were the actual boiled chicken, which makes sense. Find it. Stupid chicken jerky treats are not as exciting as real chicken. So good. I'm gonna switch to, yeah, there you go, freeze-dried chicken livers. Let's see if we get a little more, find it, excitement out of her. She's very easy to tell whether she actually likes your rewards or not. Good. So you can see she almost went all the way around. And I usually feed them with their head turned out like that. So they're really leaning into my leg. Find it. I don't move on to changing this picture until I have a dog that pivots all the way around into position. Good. Completely on their own. But like I said, it's nothing fancy. Find it. It's just having like very clear ideas in your head of like what your signals mean and what you want your dog to do. Good. So I'm trying to use my marker while she's still pivoting. So she associates the act of like moving into position with the reward, and then I'm just delaying the reward and using a little bit of a hand signal to help her get all the way around if she needs. Find it. Oh, yeah, that did drop like right here. Good. Nice. So as you can see, like her head is kind of down. Eventually I don't want her head down, but for now I can only work on like one thing at a time. So getting a nice independent pivot, scatter, is the first step. We'll fix the head position and all that afterwards. Good girly. You are the most clever. And you can see what I mean, find it, about wanting to have a disc that isn't too wide for your dog, because in order for her to actually press good up against my leg, she kind of has to be on the edge of the disc, which is why having a disc that's like too wide can sometimes be kind of a problem. But it shows me, find it, the fact that she tipped it over shows me that she's figuring out where I want her to be. Good. You are the most clever. All right, we're gonna switch dogs. Chester, find it. Good girly, you stay. So I can show you, good, what we're looking for before I move on and make this behavior any more challenging. So what I'm looking for before I worry about putting this on any other kind of a signal or getting rid of the disc is the behavior that Chester has. He's 7, so like, good, he's been doing this a while. Eventually I want my dog to sit also, but the disc, I never do the sitting part with the disc there. I add the sit after. Find it. So I'm going to not care about the sit. So you'll notice like he doesn't sit when I use the disc, but as soon as I get rid of the disc, he's going to start sitting. Good. I want a dog that does this. Find it. Before I change anything else about this setup or add a signal, I want to have that level of independence to my pivot first. So how do we add a cue and get rid of the disc and all of that? The first thing we're going to do is add a signal. So I know that my dog, after he gets his reset cookie, find it, is going to come back and do the behavior. Get in. Good. So all I'm going to do is give my signal right before he puts his feet on the disc, so he hears the cue, find it, and then he does the behavior. My signal is get in. Good. Find it. Get in. Good. And again, I'm still going to feed him with his head turned a little bit out. Find it. And I'm going to do this like a bunch of times. Get in. Good for you. Get in. Good. All right. So when I have a dog that is doing what Chester's doing, and I've done a few reps introducing the verbal, I usually just very unceremoniously stay in the exact same spot and just ditch the prop and see what kind of behavior I get. And he's going to do it perfectly because he has a lot of practice doing this. Oh, now your sister's in the way. Can you get in? Good. You can see there. Nice sit. But yeah, he did it perfectly because he knows how to do this. So to illustrate what it's probably going to look like when you do this with a dog, find it, who is not a seasoned pro, it's going to look a little something like this. Hello, Nelly, can you get in? Good. I did do a session with her last night working on this exact thing of getting the disc out of the picture. So this is not like completely foreign to her, but she's certainly not a pro like Chester's. Oh, find it. Yeah, sorry. I'm down to the nudes. Find it. Down to the dregs of the chicken liver. Lie down, please. Thank you, buddy. The chicken jerky bag. But yeah, literally all I do, get in. is say the signal, and then I need to help her out with like a little bit of a forward cookie placement first. Newt, find it. So that she doesn't sit. So I'm helping her with a little forward cookie placement and then flipping my hand, getting her all the way around. Get in. Good. And again, you can see she's kind of like Tokyo drifting into the side of my leg, which is exactly what I want. Find it. And again, this is a new skill for her. So I'm going to reward several times for doing it. Get in. Good. Find it. Now, this is why you don't want to rush, because at this stage, if I start being a little bit lax with how parallel she is with me, I'm going to get a wonky position in the ring. Get in. So like I'm trying to get her to, good, scoot her back legs in just a tad. I'm going to actually turn so you guys can see. Melly, find it. So you guys can see what I'm talking about. Get in. I know I did just drop one. Good. So I want her to be nice and parallel with me. So I'm going to start, because I'm ditching the prop. Find it. Because I'm ditching the prop, and this is very similar to the picture she's going to see in the ring, I'm going to start like being a little bit more particular about her position at my side and making sure she really like tucks that booty in before I mark and reward her. Good. There it is. Super girl. You can have the rest of these little crummies. All right. And again, sorry for the booty shot. I want you guys to see what I'm talking about with tucking his button. Chester, get in. So like that is not super great. Get in. Good. There it is. That's what we want. Find it. Get in. Good. So you can see his butt, like he's almost kind of turned out from me a bit. Get in. Good. Find it. And again, this is, I'm overtraining in practice. So that way when I get in the ring, and I'm probably not going to get the same level of behavior I get in the ring that I'm getting in practice, because I'm stressed, my dog might be stressed, they might be tired, they might be hungry, there's a lot of distractions going on. Especially the trial site that I do rally at the most around here is usually at a cluster event. So there's like confirmation, there's competition obedience, there's AKC temperament testing and trick dog testing and canine good citizen testing, all sorts of testing going on in the same building that I'm trying to do rally with my dogs. So I really like to overtrain in practice and get like a little bit more exaggerated of a behavior than I'm actually looking for, because then when I get in the ring at a trial, I'm probably going to get exactly what I want. So to recap, first we're going to shape a front paw target on an object right in front of us. We're going to make sure our dogs are pretty sticky, have their front feet really stuck to that object, and I'm going to make sure I can do things like turn and my dog stays facing me, right? To make sure their feet are really glued to that target. And then I'm going to put the target next to me. I'm going to reward my dog for putting their feet on it with a pointy fingers hand. And then I'm going to do opposite hand. I haven't come up with a good name for pointy fingers versus something else. I don't know. I'm going to reward them for being here. And then I'm going to switch my hand, because that will encourage my dog, to turn their head, which will turn their butt all the way in position. And again, in the beginning, every single little instance of pivoting they give me, I mark it and I feed. I'm not going to feed a lot, but I'm going to mark and reward every single little instance of pivoting I get until my dog gets all the way around and is like pressed up against the back of my leg a little bit. And then I'm going to feed, jackpot. Find it, cookie to reset, do it again. And once I have a dog, they are going to start to do it on their own. this is this is why I say, like, it's really not anything fancy. It's just a matter of like not rushing. I made this mistake with Chester when he was a puppy. I rushed into trying to teach him a side pass, and turns out his pivot wasn't as solid or as independent as I thought, and that hindered our ability to do a side pass. So I kind of scrapped everything and went back and re-taught him a pivot into heel from the ground up again, really focusing on getting it to be really independent, and really focusing on getting that touch on the back of my leg. And that was very, very, very helpful, because then we were able to do a side pass like real easy. So all I'm going to do once I have a dog, like you saw with Melody, they will start giving you a little bit of pivoting on their own. So then you can start like waiting for them to do the teensiest bit of pivoting. I usually will mark, so I'm going to click or do a verbal marker, and then I'm going to help them get all the way around before I feed. You don't need to mark again. I'm marking the effort and I'm feeding the finished product, because I want more and more effort. If I get more and more effort, I'm going to get more and more independence, and I get a lot farther, a lot faster. So I mark the little bit of independent pivoting I get, and then I help them get to the finished position, feed, reset, do it again. And they will start giving you more and more and more and more and more independent pivoting, until I have a dog that does what Chester does, where he plops his feet on the disc and he spins around so fast that he like sends the disc flying sometimes. Then I name the behavior. So again, you're going to say your signal as the dog is about to do the thing. They get into position, you mark, you feed, you reset, you do it again. Then ditch the disc. I usually try to do it in repetition. So I'll do 3 or 4 reps back to back to back, saying the signal, the dog pivots, feed, mark, feed, reset, say the signal, the dog pivots, mark, feed, reset, 4 or 5 times in a row. And then I just like kick the the target out of the way, and I say the signal, and I'm probably not going to get the same amount of pivoting, but any little bit of independent pivoting I do get, I'm going to mark, I'm going to help my dog get the rest of the way, feed, reset, do it again. And I promise you, if you just stick with that plan and you practice and you don't rush, you are going to get a Chester level performance. I'm going to make doing this in a sequence and getting a sit and without asking for it, and like getting that upward head position as its own separate video, because I don't want you rushing your dogs. Please don't rush. Make sure your training is joyful. Don't rush. Jackpot your dog. Happy training.